2019 was the year period drama remembered how to breathe. While everyone was obsessing over superhero franchises and true crime podcasts, television quietly delivered some of the most sophisticated historical storytelling we'd seen in years. These weren't your grandmother's costume dramas. Anne Lister broke the fourth wall and our assumptions about Victorian propriety. Greta Gerwig made us fall in love with Little Women all over again by showing us what we'd missed the first time. Welcome back to The Velvet Frame. Today we're counting down the 15 period dramas that made 2019 a year worth remembering. It doesn't open with subtlety. It opens with Anne Lister striding across the Yorkshire moors like she owns them, which, let's be honest, she practically does. Saran Jones doesn't play Anne Lister. She is her, all swagger and intelligence and devastating honesty about what she wants. The show's genius lies in its refusal to apologise for Anne's appetites. Sexual, financial, emotional. She breaks the fourth wall not to wink at the audience, but to let us in on the joke that history tried so hard to keep quiet. The real Anne Lister kept her diaries in code. The series decodes more than just her words. It reveals the electric tension between who society demanded she be and who she refused not to be. 5 seasons of Ross Poldark brooding on Cornish cliffs, and somehow Aidan Turner never made it feel repetitive. The final season strips away the romantic mythology and leaves us with something rawer, a man finally learning that heroism isn't about saving everyone, it's about knowing when to let go. Eleanor Tomlinson's Demelza carries the emotional weight here, her performance a masterclass in playing strength that doesn't announce itself. When she finally confronts Ross about his saviour complex, it's not a screaming match, it's surgery, precise, necessary and quietly devastating. Catherine of Aragon deserves better than most adaptations give her. Here, Charlotte Hope doesn't play her as a victim in waiting, but as a woman who understands power and isn't afraid to wield it. The series stumbles occasionally under the weight of its own ambitions, but when it focuses on Catherine's impossible position, foreign, female, and determined to survive in Henry's court, it sings. The costume work alone tells the story. Watch how Catherine's wardrobe shifts from Spanish bold to English muted as she learns the price of fitting in. Every stitch is a small surrender, every jewel a reminder of what she's lost. Jenna Coleman's Victoria has evolved from petulant girl queen to something more complex, a woman learning that power means choosing between impossible options. Season 3 doesn't shy away from the ugliness of empire, the human cost of progress, the way personal happiness becomes a political statement when you're wearing a crown. The scene where Victoria confronts the reality of the Irish famine while planning a lavish ball isn't just good television. It's a portrait of cognitive dissonance painted in silk and suffering. Time travel aside, Outlander has always been most compelling when it focuses on the texture of survival. Season 4 drops Claire and Jamie into colonial America, where the frontier isn't just geographical, it's moral. Catriona Balfe navigates Claire's modern sensibilities against 18th century realities with devastating precision. The Cherokee storyline could have been patronising. Instead, it becomes a meditation on belonging, on what happens when your sense of justice collides with historical inevitability. Some episodes feel like poetry, others feel like watching history happen in real time. Olivia Colman inherits the crown from Claire Foy and makes it entirely her own. This isn't imitation, it's evolution. Her Elizabeth is harder, more isolated, carrying the weight of decisions that have accumulated like scar tissue. But it's Helena Bonham Carter's Margaret who steals the season. She plays the Queen's sister not as tragic footnote, but as a woman whose rebellion is both her greatest asset and her fatal flaw. The episode where Margaret confronts her own irrelevance is a masterpiece of performance and writing, proving that supporting characters can carry the emotional centre of a series. Jane Austen's unfinished novel becomes something unexpectedly sensual in Andrew Davies's hands. Rose Williams plays Charlotte Haywood with exactly the right balance of innocence and intelligence, navigating a seaside town where everyone has secrets and most of them involve money or desire or both. The chemistry between Charlotte and Sydney Parker crackles because it's built on intellectual sparring as much as physical attraction. When they finally kiss, it feels earned rather than inevitable, a small miracle in period drama. Julian Fellowes returns to his Downton Abbey formula but with sharper edges. This isn't about the comfortable decline of aristocracy, it's about the violent birth of new money. Tamsin Greig anchors the series as Anne Trenchard, a woman learning that social climbing requires more than ambition. It requires amputation of everything you used to be. The ballroom scene that opens the series Waterloo, on the eve of battle, sets the tone perfect. Elegance dancing on the grave of everything it thinks it understands about tomorrow. Historical horror at its most sophisticated. The Franklin expedition becomes a meditation on hubris, colonialism, and what happens when civilization meets forces it can't classify or control. Jared Harris and Tobias Menzies carry the series with performances that never forget the human cost of exploration. The monster is real, but it's not the scariest thing in the show. That would be watching good men make decisions that doom everyone around them, all in the name of duty and discovery. Victor Hugo's brick of a novel becomes something surprisingly intimate. Dominic West's Jean Valjean doesn't just seek redemption, he embodies the possibility that people can change, that mercy isn't weakness, that sometimes the most radical act is refusing to become what the world insists you are. Lily Collins brings complexity to Fantine that the musical never quite achieved. Her descent isn't melodramatic, it's methodical. Each choice a small compromise until there are no choices left. Meera Nair adapts Vikram Seth's sprawling novel into something visually sumptuous and emotionally precise. Set in 1950s India during partition, it follows Lata Mehra's search for love against the backdrop of a country tearing itself apart. Tanya Maniktala plays Lata with exactly the right mix of determination and doubt. Her three suitors represent different visions of India's future, making her choice about more than romance. It's about what kind of woman she wants to become, in a world that's still deciding what it wants to be. Timothée Chalamet's Hal doesn't become Henry V through divine right, but through brutal calculation. The film strips away the mythology of kingship and shows us power as it actually functions, through violence, manipulation, and the terrible loneliness of making decisions that will outlive you. Joel Edgerton's Falstaff isn't comic relief, but a reminder of what Hal sacrifices to wear the crown. Their final scene together plays like a funeral for innocence, proving that some victories cost everything worth winning. Greta Gerwig doesn't just adapt Louisa May Alcott, she interrogates her. The non-linear structure reveals how memory works, how we reshape our past to make sense of our present. Saoirse Ronan's Jo carries the weight of artistic ambition in a world that expects women to choose between creativity and conventionality. The publishing house scene where Jo negotiates her book deal isn't just about money, it's about the price of making art in a system designed to undervalue it. When she accepts less than she's worth, it stings because we know exactly why she has to. The final season of this Anne of Green Gables adaptation dares to ask what happens when Anne's optimism meets the real world's ugliness. Amy Beth McNulty's Anne doesn't lose her spark, but she learns that kindness sometimes requires courage, that progress demands more than good intentions. The residential school storyline could have felt heavy-handed. Instead, it becomes a meditation on how systems of oppression function, how complicity works, how even the most well-meaning people can perpetuate harm. Anne's horror at her own ignorance feels genuine because the show has earned our trust in her essential decency. Power corrupts, but Helen Mirren makes corruption magnificent. As Russia's most infamous empress, she navigates palace intrigue with the calculating grace of someone who understands that survival and statecraft are the same thing. Mirren doesn't play Catherine as a monster or a saint. She plays her as a woman who learned that mercy is a luxury empires can't afford. Jason Clarke's Potemkin provides the perfect foil, ambitious enough to match her, foolish enough to challenge her. It's period drama as psychological study, showing us how absolute power doesn't just corrupt, isolates and ultimately consumes everything it touches.